As Red Dead Redemption 2 continues to establish itself as a true great, every member of the Van der Linde gang has become like family. We check in with them at regular intervals, sing together, eat food, live, die, and savor the good times. Such is the beauty of Rockstar's portrayal of the Old West and how small pockets of humanity can exist across a land slowly being populated, regulated, and patriotized. This exploration of judicial systems and American life is channeled not only through main man Arthur Morgan, but gang leader Dutch, companions like John Marston and MICAH Bell, and every NPC you come across. Red Dead 2 is a rich, crazy, vast tapestry, an interactive painting of America's most romanticized past self, and a wonder to take in. All that, and one of the most remarkable elements is making you actively care about a staggering 24 characters. Not all are good people. In fact, I hazard to say Rockstar actively avoided writing characters that easily side one way or the other. Regardless, some are written better than others, and one is the developer's best creation to date. Note before we go ahead, there are no spoilers within. But with that in mind, I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is Red Dead Redemption 2, ranking every character from worst to best. Number 24, Molly O'Shea. Though she eventually plays a pivotal role in the story, Molly is woefully underwritten. Almost left up to interpretation whether she's Dutch's partner, close friend, or anything in between, Molly's presence is felt to some degree if you seek her out. But considering how different parts of the script hinge on her actions, they almost come out of nowhere. Number 23, KIERAN Duffy. Speaking of coming out of nowhere, KIERAN gets picked up as one of those dastardly O'Driscolls, only to endure a testicularly torturous interrogation and emerge as one of your fishing buddies. Sadly, he doesn't have a whole lot more to do across the entirety of the story, so unless you really want to indulge in catching carp while picking apart the realities of scrappy gang warfare, KIERAN ends up getting knocked quite far down the ranking. Number 22, Abigail Roberts. Partner of John Marston, who'd come into her own in the original game, Abigail is still a strong presence in the camp and a backbone reminder that real familial relationships matter. Without giving anything away, Rockstar wrote Abigail in a way that totally serves both the overarching communal messaging of Red Dead Redemption 2, alongside where she and Marston both end up by the end of the story. Number 21, Javier Escuela. Though he's one of only a handful of characters to make it into the first game, Javier's dialogue and overall backstory feels laboriously dealt out. You really have to make a point of sitting with him or triggering discussions at every opportunity, as the main script seldom puts Escuela on any integral mission. Still, Javier is the camp's resident guitar player, and spending time with him yields detail of how he was chased out of various states only to be rescued by Dutch. It's just a shame there wasn't more to Javier in a fundamental way. Number 20, Karen Jones. Resigned to the Ultimate Edition as far as one awesome early bank heist goes, Karen feels like the most energetic member of the camp's female contingent. That energy usually translates into her being a notably drunk individual come every campfire shindig, but Karen will also happily dance with Arthur Morgan and has some great one-liners about the reality of trying to stay in good spirits. Number 19, Sean McGuire. Sitting out the beginning of the game thanks to a pre-opening mishap, Sean's strong accent, speed of talking, the pitch of his voice, and a general fun-loving sensibility kinda makes you feel like you're hanging out with Conor McGregor. At least the version that we all loved for a while until he started throwing things at a bus. Every mission you bring him on tends to result in a blur of improvised chaos, but there's never a dull moment, and actor Michael Malanphy is clearly having a blast in the role. Number 18, Jack Marston. Rockstar's portrayal of young Jack Marston is heartbreaking, mainly because you know that ultimately he doesn't escape the outlaw life in the end. The innocence of his delivery, how he equates kidnapping with a warm bed and lots of toys, and how he leaps at the idea of going fishing, it's the perfect way to hammer home life continuing despite such brutal circumstances. Number 17, Reverend Swanson. It would be very easy to write Reverend Swanson as a degenerate, one-dimensional drunk priest who abuses his position to get away with all manner of things. Thankfully, Rockstar introduced Swanson as a notably frenetic drunk, only to ground him with a past life of sorrows and demons that do need drowning. By game's end, he's gone through quite the series of events in the background, all of which are worth talking about. Number 16, Tilly Jackson. Starting out as a fairly timid character in the background, a handful of great cutscenes and missions give Tilly some much-needed agency and history in the world itself. Though Rockstar are absolutely telling the story of the Van der Linde gang, things like Tilly's backstory and the handful of missions where you meet Native Americans struggling to hold onto their land help flesh out the scope of everything on offer. Number 15, Pearson. The camp's resident cook, Pearson's Navy background gives the culinary side of the camp a sense of regimented authority. He's the go-to person you'll be dropping animal corpses and pelts off across the majority of the game, and remains passionate about the stews he creates for everyone to enjoy. No nonsense, a good friend to everyone, Pearson is a damn good egg. Number 14, MARY-BETH Gaskill. The main conduit for Arthur's inner thoughts, you'll routinely check in with MARY-BETH to discuss your effect on the local wildlife population, or to hear Morgan lament the amount of innocents that have been caught in the crossfire. An innocent soul who's perhaps the most morally clean of the whole bunch, MARY-BETH's love of reading is a great foundation for Arthur to compare himself to, especially as the story unfolds. Number 13, Bill Williamson. The big dumb yokel stereotype that many will remember as the first guy you bring down in the original game, fully fledged in his prime, Bill Williamson is a character who just wants to get by, espousing go-to diatribes like loyalty and the code as an excuse to indulge in butchery and wanton chaos. There's an element of immediate enjoyment whenever Bill signs on to a mission. Number 12, Josiah Trelawney. The aristocratic, wealth-chasing sentiment of the West and the embodiment of the disconnected high society, Trelawney is responsible for some of the most memorable missions in the game, not to mention he's the guy that makes you cut your hair for one of them. Ultimately, the reason Trelawney works so well is in contrast to the scrambling nature of Dutch's rulership. Josiah always has a plan and doesn't leap before he looks, something that Dutch and the gang could definitely learn from. Number 11, Leopold Strauss. The genius in Strauss's character writing comes from lulling you into a false sense of security. Steering clear of spoilers, Strauss's main role in the gang is handling money lending and finance. Thus, it's over to you as Arthur Morgan to retrieve funds that certain members of the public haven't paid back. Where these stories go, if you make a point of doing each one of Strauss's missions, is truly dastardly and makes Leopold a dark as hell figure. Number 10, HOSEA Matthews. The joint figure of authority alongside Dutch, Hosea's measured, matured, and aged comments on the outlaw life make him a unique figure in contrast to the rest of the crew. Instrumental in many a set piece, someone you're happy to consult with, and ultimately a key part of the story in every possible way, Hosea is invaluable from top to bottom. Number 9, Charles Smith. The entire camp's right-hand man, Charles is the most reliable and efficient member of the crew. Helping out with everything from stagecoach robberies to kidnappings, his boilerplate, stoic Native American template number 3 might jar with some, but details like having mixed heritage and dedicating himself to a life of freedom no matter what are both engaging as hell. Not to mention, in the West you need someone watching your back, and what better way to do so than with one hell of a tomahawk throw. Number 8, Lenny Summers. The best drinking buddy on the planet, Lenny helps Arthur get completely out of his head early in the game. Also handy with a gun and a mainstay of nearly every pivotal story moment, you could say that Lenny is Arthur's closest true friend. Though Red Dead Redemption 2's focus on Dutch's leadership and the wider commentary on American politics means that Lenny's importance doesn't reach outside gameplay elements, you're always happy to have him around. Number 7, Susan Grimshaw. The more you talk to and hang around Miss Grimshaw, the more you realize how fundamental she is to the gang. On that level, I'd put her up there with Dutch, but the revelations that lock in that perspective only come during the story's final third. Susan Grimshaw is a time-worn, essential part of the crew. Someone who, when you eventually take her on missions, is utterly ruthless, rounding off her formerly hospitable nature with a savage edge. Number 6, Micah Bell. Now, Micah is a real piece of shit. However, he's such a well-written, so utterly detestable fleck of excrement you kinda have to hand it to the writing team. Not saying anything of where the story goes either. Micah really grates on you from moment one, with even Arthur hating the fact he has to spend any time with it. Number 5, Uncle. Uncle's entire existence is dedicated to the pros and cons of sloth. The man can always be found lazing around, not doing any work, and constantly getting drunk off his face. Why? Because it makes him happy. He represents the appeal of seeing any number of imposing, nigh insurmountable odds, only to think, oh, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. For that, he's both hilarious and lovable, a constant fixture of the camp and someone you're happy to check in with. Best of all, no matter the stakes, we always knew Uncle was going to survive, as he can be found on John's ranch in the original game. Number 4, SADIE ADLER. Every good action game needs that one character who just deals death in all directions like it was nothing. Naturally, being Rockstar and seeing they want to maintain a more nuanced script, SADIE starts out as literally Rosamund Pike's character from 2018's Hostiles, only to develop a bit too much of a bloodlust. Alex McKenna turns in a performance that's somewhere between Stevie Nicks and Frances McDormand, a combination for the ages if ever there was one. Number 3, John Marston. Rockstar do a lot with a little when it comes to John, initially subverting expectations by having him be a deadbeat father abandoning his son, only to slowly build him up into the faux hero we know and love. A notable plot pivot towards the close of the game cements his actions as downright badass, but there's a through line of character building and future referencing when it comes to John that makes him a joy to hang out with. Number 2, Arthur Morgan. It was going to be a mighty tall order beating John Marston, but Arthur is a brilliant mix of introverted personal flair and the necessary level of brashness needed to survive. His exact morality is at the whims of the player in terms of who and how you kill. But from chats with MARY-BETH to potentially leaving town altogether with ex-girlfriend Mary, it rounds off Morgan as both sides of the coin simultaneously. Check out his journal, read into the visions in his dreams. Arthur's arc from beginning to end is intelligently written. And though you can break him by playing as a total psychopath and then embarking on the story, he's arguably the best protagonist in Rockstar history. Number 1, Dutch van der Linde. Easily the most complex and fascinating character Rockstar have ever written, Dutch's personal morality feels like it's constantly in flux, at any time serving both his personal whims and yet the entire camp. He routinely asks you to just have faith, but also puts stock in the reality of wealth as a means to prosper and truly be free. Sans spoilers, we always knew how Dutch died in the first game, but the backstory and extrapolation upon his themes here is nothing short of essential to Rockstar's comment on America as a whole. And that's my list. Let me know down in the comments below how you would have ranked all of the characters in Red Dead Redemption 2, or just give me your top 5. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and I'll catch you soon.